coming of Chinese laborers to this country endangers the good order of certain localities within the territory.
Chinese people bad.
Chinese people bad. Do you see, I mean, does that make, do you see that? Okay. This is a law that's signed by Congress, signed by the president, 1882, that begins, Chinese people are bad. By the way, the Chinese Exclusion Act has been apologized for, right? But look at what it does. It's good for 10 years, it gets renewed, and then it gets renewed for perpetuity. But this is the first verse of it. 10-year suspension. So for 10 years, no Chinese laborers. If you're coming as a student, I don't know if you're Chinese college students, like, oh, I'm going to study in the United States. With this law, I'm not sure if you want to get law. But you could get in if you were a diplomat, if you were certain occupations, you could get into anything. But for the vast majority of people who are coming as immigrants who move to work, they're suspended. And this is that very broad definition. It's a laborer. If you're a Chinese laborer, you're not allowed in. And you have to be able to prove that you're here in the country legally. They show the little document on the screen, so you have to this identity paper, or you could be arrested. Section 14 is probably the most damning for the Chinese that are here. And hereafter, no state court or court of the United States shall admit Chinese to citizenship. Amendment signed, or put into effect, ratified. Is it 65?
66.
Okay, well, someone look it up. I don't remember, that's why I'm asking. 68, okay. The 14th Amendment is ratified in 68. What is the 14th Amendment? It does a few things, but what does it do? That might be applicable to this law.
Equal protection.
Okay, it does equal protection.
Equal protection and due process.
Equal protection, due process, and
grants citizenship to all American citizens. Wait,
Or
na- na-
naturalized.
naturalized
Okay.
citizens. Yeah.
yeah, so this is birthright citizenship. Okay, so this law though in 1882, which is after 1868, do you see a problem here? But they get away with it, why? Because Chinese laborers endanger good order in certain localities. Just because we don't like someone, does it mean we can say the Constitution doesn't apply to them? So the citizenship ban is a direct violation of the 14th Amendment and its citizenship explanation. But what does this mean to the Chinese community that's there? If you watch the video, you'll see that it gets challenged in court, and eventually they make some progress, okay? Because for the Chinese, the one avenue that's open to them for redress is not through Congress. Why? Okay, Congress made the law, and what can the Chinese people not do? They can't vote, okay? They've been denied citizenship, so they can't vote. So no congressperson or senator is gonna say, hey, vote for me and I'll make sure your situation gets taken care of, right? So they get no representation in Congress. The president signed the bill, so their only redress is to challenge this law in the court system, okay? And that's where they're going to do it, right? But let's back up and think about those other things that are in the 14th Amendment in a few minutes that we have left, and 5 minutes that we have left. Equal protection and due process are also in the 14th Amendment. And I said at the very beginning of the semester, the 14th Amendment is the key to civil rights in the United States. Does this law, it clearly violates the citizenship part of the 14th Amendment. What about due process and equal protection?
believe all persons born in the earth, so it too. Why is that up? There's supposed to be equal protection under the law. That should be protected law.
Okay,
The due process in its most statement may deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
okay. What is due process?
Like, of
Your
course,
day in court. Okay, your day in court. I'm a Chinese person. I'm walking around Los Angeles. I came in illegally. Okay, that I didn't come to the court. I got in illegally. Okay, and the video talks a little bit about some of them even coming up through Mexico. And someone stops me for my papers, and I don't have them. And I get detained and maybe even sent back to China. Do you see where there's a problem with due process? What is the problem? Yeah, they don't get an opportunity to defend themselves. So that's due process. What about equal protection? How does this violate equal protection? I mean, you read what equal protection means, but how does this law violate equal protection? They're being specifically targeted because they're from China. Are other groups specifically targeted because of their skin color, ethnicity, etc.? Yes. By the law. By the law. By federal law. I should have really qualified that a lot. By the federal law, by constitutional law, is there anyone else that is suffering the same thing? African Americans in the American South, yes, because of Jim Crow and whatnot. But according to the federal law, no. Okay, they're all equally protected by the Constitution, except for this one group. Why? Because they're deemed to be dangerous. So you see where there's a problem with that. Do you see any similarities between that issue and today? History moves in cycles.
It's a perfect circle.
Not a perfect circle. So, I mean, as I'm thinking about this, I was putting this PowerPoint together yesterday, and I just kept thinking that history doesn't repeat itself, but that it moves in cycles, and that so much of this is similar to today. Wherever you stand politically, we are picking people up, oftentimes not giving them the right to due process, not giving them equal protection. And I don't think we violated the birthright citizenship clause yet, but there's the assumption that if you look a certain way, then you go away. I explained that.